Hi, we are going to go over synthesis T1-1. I realize that this is a challenging prompt, but the thing about the AP Lang test, you are bound to be faced with some challenging prompts. I've never had a group of students come back and tell me that every single prompt on the test was easy, so you have to be prepared for that. That being said, I want to show you an essay that uses all elements of voice, that follows the template, and would score a solid 8. So I'm going to point out the different elements of voice to you, and we're just going to go over it step by step. So of course we're going to start with the introduction. You'll see that the introduction is right here, and it is about a third of a page. So it's just one paragraph. We do have a hook, and then we have a 3-part thesis. So let's look at our hook first. It says the Daily Show recently ran a contest to determine the greatest Trump tweet of all time. The winner, a tweet by Donald Trump from June 2014 that asks the question, are you allowed to impeach a president for gross incompetence? Trump obviously targeted Obama when he published that tweet, but it seems to reflect the adage, when you point your finger at someone, remember there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. So we have a few things highlighted here. First, we have an example of euphony, which is the winner. And notice that that is a sentence fragment, and it is also a rhetorical question that acts as a transition. So you got a lot going on there, but look at how basic that is. You could do that. That's not really as complicated as I'm probably making it sound. So that being said, these are good because they are types of questions we use in conversation, and a judge does want to see that you have the ability to sound academic and conversational at the same time. So it's like you're really at peace with your ability to explain things of an academic manner. That is what your judge is looking for. Even more if you can be compelling when you do it. So right there you've got the winner. That's your example of euphony. We also have this highlighted in yellow, which means it's an insight. When you point your finger at someone, remember there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. Now that is a metaphor. I did not make that up. It is actually a very popular saying that's been around for decades. So even though I didn't make that up, I cite that it's an adage. So while it's figurative language, which to a degree counts as an insight, the real insight here is I am connecting this adage to this hook here. So it's the way that it commentates on the hook that makes it insightful. Now we are going to transition into the 3-part thesis. So again, we start with our opposition, otherwise known as our concession or counterargument. Then we go into our platform and we end at our position. Some people dismiss everyday writing and caution others that primary sources can be biased and unreliable, source E. However, primary sources can be figurative and sometimes literal snapshots of people's thoughts and experiences. When all is said and done, everyday language is a very important part of the information we are inundated with every day. A couple of things here. Notice how the opposition is presented and also cited because it came from a particular article. That's a paraphrase. However, the platform is given in the form of a metaphor / fact. So combined together, it's kind of like a paradox, which is what makes it insightful. And then we have the position, which states our position on everyday language. So we've got all 3 elements of the thesis right there. Now let's go into the counter argument. While it is true that we are already overwhelmed with information in everyday writing just adds to the deluge, this is by far not a phenomenon. As far back as 2,000 years ago, the Roman philosopher Seneca bemoaned this problem, pointing out the innumerable books in the library that no one would be able to get through in his or her lifetime, source F. And the problem is definitely not getting any easier. According to the University of California at Berkeley, the amount of information in the world increases by approximately 30% annually, source F. Some people may think that collecting everyday writing just makes it harder to sift through information, but there are definitely times when primary sources need to be prioritized over secondary ones. So notice this paragraph that addresses the opposition. Half of it validates something that the opposition says, but the other half is going to go along with the platform and show that even though the opposition does have a point, there are more important points to consider. So that's the second half of the first body paragraph that we're going into right now. Let's take Trump's tweet, for example. Using a primary source can illustrate people's biases, source E. Primary sources of everyday writing have a certain ethos because they act like photographs of what people's thoughts are at a particular time. When some of my friends who are Trump supporters claim that liberals need to shut up because conservatives tolerated Obama for 8 years without complaint, Trump's many tweets fired at Obama during Obama's presidency are good evidence that my friends' assertions about that matter are patently untrue. When they tell me that I should not complain about our current president because he is our president, I just say that I am following Trump's example, the one he set in 2014. Now, here we go. We've got quite a bit of insight here. What makes this insight and what makes this right here original? Let's go over that. First and foremost, this is really good cohesion because I'm going right back to my hook. So I've introduced it and now I'm extending it. Secondly, this reflects my platform and it remains a metaphor. And then right here, this is highlighted as original because I'm showing the irony of the situation. And there's a bit of sarcasm there that is hopefully effective. So as a result, that's both insightful and original. The point is that I am pointing out the hypocrisy on the opponent's side, and I am showing how everyday writing gives me the power to do that. So now we're going to go into a paragraph that will deal almost 100% with the platform, and that's the second body paragraph. Something else that often occurs is that everyday posts often keep biased news sources and possibly even courts accountable. Gail Osterber, the director of communications for the Library of Congress, wrote in a blog post, "A society turns to social media as a primary method of communication and creative expression. Social media is supplementing and in some cases supplanting letters, journals, serial publications, and other sources routinely collected by research libraries, source D. Some people may see this as a negative trend. After all, we have blamed, and rightly so, social media for a lot of the fake news that has become part of our daily communication. Even so, what would happen to cases like the victims in the U.S. police brutality without social media? There's a great deal of pressure now on many precincts to re-educate their police force in de-escalating strategies. Who knows how many lives this has saved? In addition, what about places like North Korea, where the government is in direct control of the media, only allowing reverent depictions of government officials and censoring any glimpses of more prosperous countries? Now, the reason why you see those green highlights is those are examples of euphony. And the reason why they're examples of euphony is because they're rhetorical questions. The key to rhetorical questions is this. You have to use rhetorical questions to extend your idea, and they have to be specific. If they don't do both of those things, judges often don't like rhetorical questions. So if you are going to use rhetorical questions, they can be very effective. Just make sure that you are following those rules so you don't turn your judge off. When information is able to sneak through about the lies the North Korean government is telling its people, some people are finding ways to escape profound oppression and experiencing much different lives in freer places after taking harrowing risks. The truth is that the deluge of information will always be there. Right now, we're, of course, at the conclusion. And information from both primary and secondary sources carries bias. What is really important, though, is that everyday writing is a significant reflection of human thought, interaction, and experience. And right there, that's just extending that idea about everyday writing being similar to a photograph. The word reflection is used as a synonym for photograph. And notice the final line is really nice to end strong. And remember, shortness in a sentence is often equated with confidence. Therefore, it must be preserved.